and I'm going to pick Jason Davis because I'm concerned that Jason's a little nervous about this, and I don't want him to have to brood about it over lunch.
Don't set him up.
I'm not even nervous about it because Craig's going to do it.
All right, so with that, I'll hand the mic over to Craig. But if you ever get a chance to hear Jason talk, he's sublime.
Oh, that's our name. All right. Well, I definitely like going before lunch, because I typically don't do that well during lunch. So, let's see. We had the topic of meaningful relationships. So we kind of picked up where Shally and his group left off, so they're sourced. And the conversation started out, I would say, pretty interestingly. We went around, everybody had an opportunity to talk for a moment. And the first thing that we realized as a group was that we didn't have a recruiter in the group. There's not one person that sat in our group that actually recruits for a living. So initially we thought, wow, this could be a little bit of a disadvantage. But then we thought, well, maybe we won't be clouded by some of those issues and we can focus on what we might want to accomplish. So the interesting part about what we did was, I think, set up by our two coordinators. So first Jason started talking about the telephone. And it kind of got us on task and it got us off task at the same time because we got kind of down into, what a great tool this is to be able to communicate and get you away from email. And we really want to have two-way, personalized types of communications with people. And then David from ERE started talking about the concept of, well, why don't we focus on potentially thinking of ourselves as a company and what we would come out with as a product or a solution that we could then present back. So that kind of helped us, and then Mark from Career Crossroads set up a framework that said, let's think out of the box, let's come up with a concept that does something a little bit different. And next thing you know, we fell upon a topic of communication. So meaningful relationships to us meant the ability to communicate effectively, and that required a two-way type of communication, not just an email, not just a newsletter being delivered, not just somebody coming to a presentation about your company. And then the next thing that we got to was that those individuals need an opportunity to customize that to their own personal needs. So thinking about it as I started hearing what everybody was talking about was, I thought about TiVo. I don't know about you, but I'm a huge fan of TiVo-type technology. So what I love about it is I have the ability to customize what I watch when I watch. So call it whatever you want. But when I sit down at my TV, I would venture to guess it's very different than what Dave or anybody else might do with that same tool. And so I have an opportunity to select the things that I want. I watch them when I want to, and I have an ability to totally tailor that. So next we moved into, well, what are all of these different types of mechanisms or tools that we might be able to use? Fortunately for us, we had a group of vendors. So Hans, is an expert in an area, and Peter Clayton's an expert in another area. So we had podcasters and bloggers and relationship managers and recruiting network experience. And so we started kind of thinking about this kind of best of breed type of concept where what if there was a platform that was a plug-and-play platform and you were able to more or less drag and drop the custom applets or the widgets that really first were what you needed for your organization, and then secondly, what appealed to the people that you were most eagerly trying to communicate with. So we moved from that conversation into our company. So our company is Meaningful Relationships Incorporated. Mm-hmm. And basically what our company focus is we focus on recruiting and retaining talent. Because the pipeline, interesting thing about a pipe is it has a hole on both ends. So we're constantly trying to source in this talent, and we constantly have people, going out the other side. And I think it was Chad made a great, statement that, it's really, really important to focus on this retention piece, because we have valuable members that could potentially be leaving us. And then somebody brought up a research topic that I questioned. I think it was Chad, and I asked if it was true, and then Mark confirmed that. And it was, where we're getting great talent from, and one of the number one sources, if not the number one source, is in the referral component. So what we did was we came up with this concept of recruiting and retaining, and we call ourselves Ka-Ching Media. And we herd the best cats. So it's very difficult, and we've all talked about herding cats, and it's an extremely difficult thing. I'm a dog person myself. Had a Labrador for many years, and always bugged me when I called him and he didn't come. I've never had a cat come, but if you have one, that would be a great video. So the next thing we started talking about is what we do, and how do we make money, and what's the value of that to a company. And so what we do in Meaningful Relationships is three things. One, we first come in and learn about you and your organization in a consulting type of capacity. So we have to do diagnosis before we can prescribe anything. The second thing that we do is, based on that, we have the opportunity to plug in some specialized types of training that can help. And third, we have the ability to customize and develop a solution. So really there's two components here. One side is a strategic component, where you have to think about all the aspects of the business and what you need to do to attract and retain talent. And the second side of it is the tactical component. How do you actually get that done? So we got into a whole tactical conversation, and we started writing down all types of things. So, podcasting, webinars, newsletters, blogs, specialized meetings and events, advertising, employer branding, social networking, referral programs. These are all really key components, and what happens is we're all not experts in each one of those areas. So when the team comes in and you have the top players, the best of breed players in each one of those, you have an ability to start to develop a large number of truly meaningful relationships that are both two-way, customized, personal to those individuals. And we do that with various methods. Technology, for example, plugging in a specialized widget or a tool. It could be a database. It could be a web development project to help you with your career portal. But at the end of the day, what it's all about always comes back to the communication, because meaningful relationships aren't really forged necessarily on a LinkedIn. You could have the beginning of a relationship, but we started talking about what happens interpersonally with friends. I made the point that if you have a friend that you haven't talked to in 5 years, it might not really be a friend anymore. So what happens is people start to reach out to people, and you send them a Christmas card. And then they call you, and you send them an email. And then you happen to be in that town and you go visit them. And what happens is you build through frequency, by various methods, truly meaningful relationships that are two-way. And at the heart of it, what we felt is that some companies are doing some things, some companies are doing a lot of things, many companies aren't doing all of the things, and many of the things that they're doing, they're not really doing that well. So you might be using a tool, yet not be using it to its fullest capacity. So Ka-Ching Media, Meaningful Relationships, Inc., whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, picks up where the sourcers leave off and has to be bred into the organization so that those types of relationships happen long-term over time so that you can build pools of people that don't only know who you are and sit in a database, but that you're selling to, marketing to, and in relationship with, so that when the time is right, they have an opportunity to come and work with you. Questions?
Yeah, I think that, I think that idea about that you can maintain relationships with very little communication, actually. I mean, I think about coming to this conference, there's some people, one of them sitting next to you, who I don't interact, we used to work together and don't interact very often with, but at least still for me, it was like, and I don't know if it was mutual or not, Linda, but I said, wow, there's somebody I know. I'm going to... I think the challenge is we do this naturally. The question is what happens if somebody leaves the organization? They take all of those relationships with them, and is there a way to basically, if I leave town, the next person that moves in their house, can I give them my Christmas card list and maintain it? It's no longer coming from me. And I think that's the challenge, that you have a personal, meaningful relationship that's inherently personal. Is there some way, and recruiters change, people, managers change, is there some way to transfer that personal connection?
We talked about that a little bit, and there's some legal issues there. I come to work for you, I have 3,000 LinkedIn connections, and I import them into your database. When I leave, I obviously change my email address, and I have all my connections. So, there's some issues there, but we really felt that if the company is taking an active role and actually communicating, that there's a portion of that relationship that's tied to the individual, but there's a portion that's tied to, the fact that our products and our company delivers these types of solutions, and we provide you with these types of tools, so that there's more than just, the recruiter that you might be talking to. There's a portal, there's an ongoing dialogue, there's sources of tools and information that you rely on that might not have anything to do with your job search today, because you might be happy somewhere else. But, because we're in the gaming business and we know the best gamers, we know what they like and we know what they need, that we're creating, and I think this is something that I didn't really touch on, a community and a hub that becomes more than just that one-to-one relationship of who you might be touching base with regularly. Yeah.
Two things. One, I'm going to out Jason. I think he was a working recruiter when we met. Yeah. So you did have a recruiter in your room. The second thing is meaningful relationships they need bandwidth. If you're going to have a lot of friends, it's going to take a lot of time and concern and communication. So by definition, having a lot of meaningful relationships can be very expensive.
Well, I think a relationship needs to go beyond the recruiter. So what we're talking about here is relationship management with all members of the organization. Yeah. And I think that's the big ticket item that we haven't quite solved for it on. How do you take advantage of all those meaningful relationships and turn them into a productive asset from a sourcing perspective?
Well, I think that, and can you disassociate it? Because when I get an email from a person, or I know it came from a person that I've got a face attached to, and the minute it goes to an organization, you just react to it differently, or whatever communication. And that's what I'm wondering, is there some way that you can actually disassociate individual people from that sort of relationship?
We didn't think...